All right, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. It's Thursday, and of course, it's tech. Now, for a number of times, you might see stuff that you actually get enthused about. But today, I'm very sure that you're going to hear something new and learn quite a lot. We have Abidemi Agwor. He's a tunneling, and you're also a geologist, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then you also do tunneling.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're talking about today.
That's
because
right.
a number of us, as much as I have some inkling, but you are here to break it down for us. Well, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, tunneling and underground spaces, that's what we're talking about today.
That's right.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about you, first of all. What is your background in tech?
So my background is basically a combination of geology, civil engineering, which with a specialization in integration of tunneling and underground space using cities. And more recently looked at things that have to do with the social, environmental, and economic integration of mega infrastructures, which allows us to sustainably adopt infrastructures like tunneling and underground space in cities, especially for developing countries.
Okay. Now, that's nice. Now, speak English. Break it down. What exactly do you mean by tunneling and underground spaces?
So I'm pretty sure from movies, a lot of us watch movies. I'm very aware that the first inkling of what we think about will be metros, what we see in developed countries. And when you talk about tunnels, they think about the metros in New York, in London. But there's a wide spectrum of application of underground space use, from the micro-tunnel in the very small creation of space, which we already do in Nigeria by using, the distribution of gas and oil and gas pipes.
That's what we do with tunnels, yes.
Yeah, but then that also is the end of a spectrum, and it can also go as far as underground storage, waste management, utility distribution, water, sewage, oil and gas, as I mentioned earlier on, and even as far as in developed countries, they're having things like underground farming. But that's a different spectrum. But as far as we're concerned in developing countries, there are multifunctionalities that we can basically address, or challenges that we can address with the use
now,
of underground
exactly,
space.
that's it. Let's come to the application. On the developed and developing countries, like you mentioned, the most that we do with tunneling here are pipelines that we lay, probably when it comes to telecommunications and all of that, apart from, like you mentioned, gas and all of that. In what ways, in what way can we set up infrastructure to get the maximum, to get the best use of tunneling and underground spaces?
So,
if you had to do a roadmap, how do we do it?
So I'd like to, first of all, take us back to the why of this.
Okay.
So when you look at the world globally, you look at the biggest problems we have right now is urbanization and climate change. Urbanization is basically...
Trump will not agree with you.
I know, well, but that's a topic of discussion for another day. But when we look at urbanization, Africa is deemed to be the fastest urbanizing continent in the world. And when you look at cities like Lagos, Lagos has a population estimated of over 20 million
yes.
with a footprint that isn't increasing. But the mass of people is increasing every day. Now, what do we then do with the urban space we have? There's that requirement for us to begin to think in a different way of how we need to add a lot more value. And that means repurposing existing spaces and exploring spaces that haven't been used before. It's all about value addition. We are increasing the value of a footprint of space by increasing the functionality of the footprint of that space by going deeper. So when you have things like, we're looking at the blue line, red lines, and all these, it's good enough, but all those spaces, we can also maximize those spaces by also creating subterranean infrastructure for waste management, for storage. A lot of people are skeptical about developing infrastructures in Lagos, or we'll probably go back to that in terms of environmental, because Lagos is susceptible to flooding. It
is. I mean, come on, let's not even go there. I want to start with the island now. No, but now you've mentioned the why. Let's talk about the how.
Okay. So the how, I would say, is, strategically, we need to, first of all, we need to understand where we are at. There's a lack of awareness, there's a lack of knowledge, and the capacity isn't there. And that's one of the things that I'm doing as an individual, partnering with the International Tunneling and Underground Space Association. We're driving the awareness. So you've asked me key questions now, and people have asked me, is it not too late for us to do in Lagos? Is it not too...
Yes, because you might need some form of... I'm thinking about it practically now. You might need to relocate quite a number of people if you want to, for a system that it's underground.
Yep.
Systems are built, you have to build a whole sub-system, ecosystem that would, that will function. You'd have to relocate a lot of people. How is it? Is it practically? Can it happen now?
So the benefits, one of the key strategic benefits of underground space is it gives you flexibility, and you're basically developing simultaneously an infrastructure that isn't significantly affecting the existing life circle on the surface.
How do you do that?
So basically, you create an entry. So
okay.
I'll give you an I'll give you an example. So I've worked on several different projects. So we create an entry point, and then we, from that point, begin to facilitate the functioning and the creation of the space we want to create. So the footprint of impact is significantly lower than surface construction. If you were to build a bridge, you would impact quite significantly more footprints than underground space.
Definitely, but now wouldn't it affect the integrity of what you have on the surface?
So now that is where engineering comes into play. So a lot of pre-assessments, or I don't want to go too technical. So things like GBR, which is the geotechnical kind of like investigation reports, everything is basically taken into consideration. And from there, we know Lagos has a peculiar geology. So with Port
like we mentioned, the susceptibility to flooding, which is going to be a problem when you're trying to do underground.
Yeah, but then there are solutions.
There are. This is
Amsterdam is as as low-lying as Lagos is, and is susceptible to flood as well. But they found a way to go around develop around that. I
like this. Okay, so this is something that I was saying that look, it's something we can do development. We can use tunneling and underground spacing to its full because we're not using it so much here.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. It was great talking to you on this one.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, hope you're able to speak one or two things there. Maybe this might be something discussion you might need to go back and check out maybe when we get up the video on YouTube.